Hi. I'm just going to speak a little bit about the last few months, as I sense that a few people, probably most people, have been experiencing something similar, i.e. something super intense. Particularly those of us who are quite sensitive to stuff. I'm not quite sure what's been going on recently, but there's certainly been some major shifts going on, mostly around about anything that we haven't actually dealt with. So any childhood stuff that we possibly thought we had dealt with, but we actually haven't, in fact, fully cleared. Any residual patterns, those resistant patterns that we have when we're under pressure or out of our comfort zone that we tend to scurry back into, or any underlying patterns in us. They've fairly been coming up to the surface to wave their hairy bits at us. It's been interesting for me. Normally, I have the physical health of a physical healthy thing. I never ever get ill with things. People, when they were, even when I was at school, I used to get quite upset because I was never off sick with any illness. Everybody else would catch things. I never caught anything. When when I was at work and I was in a open office space, so there's plenty of people around about me, there would be various lurgies going around. I never ever caught them. Even occasionally I'd sort of think, well, I don't feel very good, but I was always too busy, and I just thought, right, no, I'm not going to get it, and I never did. So really, in all my 21 years of working in the health service, I think I probably in that time maybe took about 5 days in total off due to physical illness. Oh no, there'd be more than that. It can relating to pregnancy related issues, but that wasn't illness. I don't think it was even 5 days. It was next to nothing. So for me to get any physical illness is really, really, really unusual. And so there can be all sorts of bugs going around, and I just don't pick them up. So it's been very interesting. It's also been interesting for me to have been watching the whole process around about tick bites and Lyme's disease. I've been spending a lot of time over for the last 2 to 3 years up north, up the north of Scotland, where there's a lot of Lyme's disease there, and lots of ticks and plenty of chance to get tick bites, and never been an issue until this year. And then this year I had my first tick bite, I think, in the spring. It was just one, and it was like, ah! I realised there was a tick on my leg when I was in the bath, and it was a hot bath, and I think I pulled it out without even thinking I'd done it, which is probably not the way to do it, but it was, I think, the one bath, and it just came out very easily. And then again, when I went, it was this summer when I was, in August, when I was organising the first Festival of Consciousness up in Forres, and again I found a tick on my body. And when I came back, I actually ended up with 3 tick bites that time. That was just a bit strange too. So with one I pulled out again. I found them in my bath, and I pulled it out, and it came out easily. And then I realised there was another one behind my knee, and I did the same thing again. I think by that stage, the first one I did not really thinking about it too much. The second time I pulled the other one out and I didn't really get it properly, and I think I just sort of pulled at the back of it, didn't get it out at all, took it out the next time, didn't think much about it. And actually when I came back home, there was one, I don't even know how there was one sticking on my shoulder at that point, and my friend who was here just pulled it out, and it was fine. So at that stage, after that, I never thought much about it. Where the bite had been on the back of my knee, it started swelling up. So it it was quite large. It was about that size, very, very enlarged. And it wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't itchy. It wasn't really anything. It was just swollen. I thought, oh, let's just obviously take it. I've got a bit of an infection in it. Didn't recognise what infection. Didn't think much of it. And then the inflammation went down. But I didn't like the look of it because it almost looked a bit necrotic. It was almost like the cells were dying away because it was a bit grey and dented in. And I thought that was really, really strange. And it was also very itchy round about it. So I did book for a doctor's appointment at that stage, but I was just about to go on I was just about to go to run my week-long retreat in near Edinburgh at that stage. I did get a prescription for antibiotics. Apparently, it was the wrong prescription, but which I found out later. And then when I came back, I had an appointment with my GP due when I came back, but everything had looked like it was on the clear up, so didn't take the appointment. It was only a few weeks later that it had stayed, and it wasn't itchy by that stage. There was no inflammation. It seemed to be fading, but then there was this weird red ring round about it, and it was quite, it was just kind of going around my leg, so it was about there. And I looked online. Somebody mentioned about Lyme's disease, and I thought, oh, I'm sure it isn't. But looked online, and of course, it's got this telltale greying sort of ring in the middle, and this sort of pinkish colour, and then this bright red ring around the outside. It was absolutely what I had. So at that stage, I went to the GP, and he did a blood test for me, and it tested as positive for Lyme's disease. What I'd been experiencing in the weeks before that was my right hip, which years back I was sure I was getting some arthritis in it, and I'd managed to clear that at that stage, and it had been really giving me jip the last, sort of the 2 or 3 weeks before I went for that doctor's appointment, and I really thought that was strange that it had started complaining again. But didn't think much of it, and then my other shoulder had started to kick off as well, to the extent that actually changing gears in the car, for a while I couldn't actually drive because I had no strength in that arm to be able to change gears. Not being able to change gears in the car is not great ingredient. So it was starting to impact on me. I wasn't aware of feeling much tireder at that stage, but there was definitely something going on. And so I'm not sure how much of it was Lyme's disease and how much of it was other stuff. There was other things coming up around about the same time as well, which I could easily attribute to Lyme's disease. I have had periods. I mean, maybe 10 years ago, I had periods of extreme suicidal intention. It wasn't like that because it wasn't that I hated life and I really didn't want to be alive, which it had been in the past. But now it was just, everything was just really, really, really hard work, and I just couldn't keep going. And it was getting a little bit thin between sort of staying here and going. And I just had to sort of nail everything down that I could nail down, and just be very kind to myself. So at the same time, a lot of other stuff started erupting in amongst relationships and friendships. And it was not a very smooth time, to say the least. Yeah, so it's been a very, very interesting time for me. So many patterns that I really thought were done, dusted, and dealt with, coming up and saying, well, actually, they're not. And really only just in the last, maybe this last week, this last week I was visiting my son in France, and yeah, it's just very, very, very good space we get on really well. It was also a complete change of environment. So somewhere in there I managed to everything started to clink back into place, and it's not until you start coming back into your own, back into comfort and into your own power. Well, I start coming into my comfort, into my own power, that I recognise how much it hadn't been like that before. So the reason I'm sharing this is because my sense, and also from what other people are sharing with me and what I'm observing for other people, is I'm not the only person that's been going through similar to this. And many people are going through stuff. You could describe it as a process of initiation, process of clearing. It feels like for many of us, those things that are really, anything that's in our way that's blocking us is finally shedding, because there's important things for us to do. And we look outside ourselves. We look at what's happening on the global, on the global stage, and it really does feel like at the moment there's a huge dynamic going on between, sort of a power dynamic going on between those that would have power over others and those that would stand in power alignment. So I think it's all good. And yeah, just lots of love to you if you've been finding it challenging, and hopefully see you on the other side.